2/3 of an octopus's brain isn't in its head. It's spread through its arms, and if one gets cut off, it can keep moving and reaching on its own long after it's no longer attached to anything at all. By the end of this video, you'll know why scientists sometimes describe an octopus as a body with 9 brains instead of 1. You'll see how a creature that's technically colorblind still matches colors and textures almost perfectly in under a second. You'll find out how an animal with no skeleton at all can escape almost anything, and why some of them carry their own portable armor. You'll learn that individual octopuses have real, measured personalities, bold ones, shy ones, tested repeatedly, not just observed once. And stay to the end, because how every single female octopus's life ends is one of the strangest, most deliberate things biology has documented. Controlled by a single gland, the size of a grain of rice. Start with the body plan, because nothing else about an octopus makes sense without it. An octopus has around 500 million neurons, roughly as many as a dog. In a dog, almost all of those sit inside the skull. In an octopus, only a fraction do. The central brain, wrapped oddly around the esophagus in a ring of about 40 separate lobes, holds somewhere around 40 million neurons. Behind the eyes, 2 large optic lobes handle vision alone, with another 100+ million. And then there are the arms. 2/3 of an octopus's entire nervous system, roughly 330 million neurons, is packed into its 8 arms. Each one carries a thick bundle of nerves down its center, studded with clusters called ganglia, local processing centers. That's not just wiring carrying orders from the brain. Researchers have found that an arm can taste what it touches, decide how to grip it, and react without waiting for a signal to travel all the way to the brain and back. In one experiment, scientists physically disconnected an...
Here's something that shouldn't be possible. An octopus's eyes are built to detect only one wavelength of light. By the strict definition scientists use, that makes them colorblind. And yet an octopus can shift its entire skin to match the color, pattern, and texture around it in under a second. Accurately enough to fool predators that see color perfectly well. How a colorblind animal pulls off color matching this precise is a genuine, still open puzzle in vision science. One leading idea is that the octopus's oddly shaped, W-shaped pupil might split light slightly as it passes through, giving the eye a rough way to sense color indirectly, almost like a crude prism, even without the receptors that job normally requires. It isn't settled science. It's one of the rare cases where the animal is doing something researchers still can't fully explain. What is well understood is the hardware doing the color shifting itself. Thousands of tiny pigment sacs called chromatophores sit under the skin, each ringed by tiny muscles that stretch it open or let it close, controlling exactly how much pigment shows. Layer in reflective cells underneath, and an octopus can move through.
An octopus has no skeleton at all. Nothing rigid anywhere, except a hard beak, about the size of a parrot's. That means it can squeeze through any gap larger than that single beak, a smaller opening than most people would guess just from looking at the animal. That flexibility, paired with genuine problem solving, makes octopuses notorious in aquariums. Give one a clear jar with a screw-top lid and food sealed inside, and it will investigate, manipulate, and in plenty of documented cases, actually unscrew the lid from the outside. That's not a party trick. It shows an understanding of cause and effect. This motion on this object opens the way to food. In the wild, one species goes further, into territory biologists usually reserve for genuine tool users. The veined octopus has been documented collecting coconut shell halves discarded by people, carrying them across the seafloor stacked together, and later assembling them into a shelter it can pull closed around itself. It's hauling equipment it doesn't need yet, on the chance it'll need protection later. The marine equivalent of carrying a spare tire around, just in case. Put a boneless body and a genuinely strategic mind together, and you get an animal that's one of the hardest things in the ocean to keep contained. Public aquariums build real staff training around exactly this problem.
Ask a marine biologist if octopuses have personalities, and the honest answer isn't a guess anymore. It's measured. In a now classic study, researchers ran dozens of individual octopuses through the same standardized situations repeatedly. Lifting the tank cover, a light touch with a rod, feeding time. The same individuals responded consistently, differently from one another, along measurable dimensions researchers labeled activity, reactivity, and avoidance. Some octopuses reliably investigated something new right away, every time. Others held back, every time. That kind of consistency in the same individual across repeated tests is the actual scientific definition of personality, the same standard used for humans. There's evidence of something like play, too. In one study, researchers gave octopuses a floating object, like an empty pill bottle, for an hour a day over more than a week. Individual octopuses varied.
Everything about an octopus's intelligence gets more remarkable and stranger once you know how short its life actually is and how it ends. Most octopus species live only about 1 to 2 years total. A female mates once, and after that, she never eats normally again. She lays a single enormous clutch of eggs, sometimes tens of thousands of them, anchors them somewhere safe, and stays with them constantly, cleaning them and keeping water flowing over them for months. She doesn't leave to hunt. By the time the eggs hatch, she's severely weakened and dies shortly after. For decades, biologists assumed this was simple exhaustion, a mother starving herself protecting her young. In 1977, a researcher named Jerome Wodinsky ran an experiment that overturned that assumption. He surgically removed a small gland sitting between a brooding mother's eyes, called the optic gland, and something startling happened. She abandoned her eggs, resumed feeding, gained weight, and in some cases mated again, living close to 6 months longer than she otherwise would have. This wasn't exhaustion catching up with her. It was a switch. Flip it off, and the whole process reverses. More recent research has mapped what that...
Compare that to the raven from our last video, which learns constantly from parents, siblings, and a social network built over years. And you get 2 completely different recipes, producing a similarly remarkable result. A raven gets smart by watching and remembering others. An octopus gets smart alone, from scratch, against a deadline it can't see coming and wouldn't understand even if it could. Nature has now built serious intelligence at least 3 separate times in this series alone. Apes, birds, and a boneless invertebrate with 3 hearts and blue blood. And every time, it took a completely different road to get there. So next time you see an octopus vanish into a crack barely wider than a coin, or shift color mid-swim, remember, nothing in its arms or its eyes had to ask permission from its brain to do that. Next episode, we're doing something different. Instead of one deep dive, we're running 50 rapid-fire facts back to back about a single animal. Faster, punchier, built for people who want a flood of wait, really? Moments instead of one long story. Drop a comment with which animal you want us to run through first, and subscribe so you don't miss it.